builders, welcome back to my channel. My name is Emma and I'm here to do a end of the year TBR tag. So this is a tag. It doesn't mean I'm going to read all these books by the end of the year, but I found these questions to be fun. I originally saw this video on Belle's Libraries channel and I just thought that they were some fun questions, so I figured I would answer them. I brought some books down with me and we're just gonna have fun. As always, the questions are on my phone, so if you see me looking down, that's why. So the first question is, what new release do you want to read by the end of the year? I took this as what book that has already come out do you want to read before the end of the year? So I chose Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Taylor Jenkins Reid has become an auto-buy for me pretty much since I read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which to this day is still one of my all-time favorite books. From what I know about this book is that it is a contemporary. It's about a family that I believe lives in Malibu, and it just like spans over the decades, I guess. I don't know a whole lot. I know there's some celebrity sightings. I do know that it features characters from The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo as well as Daisy Jones and the Six, which I have not read yet. But yeah, I love this author and I do want to try to get this on a TBR before the end of the year. So the next question is, what book do you want to reread before the end of the year? So I think it was last year, might have been this year, I can't remember. I did a huge book outlet haul, and on Book Outlet I found this book, which was one of my favorite books in middle school, and I've wanted to reread it ever since. But it is Tears of a Tiger by Shannon M. Draper. This is about a boy whose brother gets into a car accident, and it is how he handles his grief, especially as a young child of color, or a teenager of color. I believe he is a black teenager. So I think it has a lot to also do with the societal pressures that are put on to black boys not to cry. As a society, we have a tendency to ignore black mental health, especially in the males. So I think that is very much what this book was about, if I can remember correctly. And I want to reread it really badly. One of the things I remember about it is that the last like line or two made like 13-year-old me sob like never before. And I think that it's going to be even harder for me to read now because I'm older and I understand a lot more about the world. So I think it's going to make me cry even harder. And I just really, really want to reread it as soon as possible. It also is part of a trilogy. It's the Hazelwood High trilogy, so there's also a book called Forged by Fire, as well as Darkness Before Dawn, and I'm going to try to find the other two of this trilogy because, like I said, this book probably has a lot of sentimental value to me, but also I just would love to reread because I think it is such a powerful book, if I remember correctly. So the next question is, what series would you like to finish by the end of the year? I'm not a huge series reader, like, at all. I don't even think I have that many open series out, but I did pre-order The Legacy, which is 4 like short story novellas in one book, and each short story or novella follows one of the couples from the Off-Campus series, which I loved that series. And I pre-ordered it. It's supposed to come later this month, actually probably right around the time this video comes out. I should have my hands on it, and I loved this series, and I cannot wait to have my hands on this, and I will try to read it. I do know that currently there is a new release circle on my Wheel of TBR, and if that baby comes up in my October TBR, that is what I will be reading. Mark my words, I'm so excited. I can see Garrett and John Logan and John Tucker and Dean again, and oh my god, those books. Those books. The next question is, what book would you like to buddy read by the end of the year? Much like series, I am not a buddy reader. I tried to buddy read earlier this year and I didn't even read it. Like, I just kind of didn't read it. It just felt like too much pressure to try to read it when another person was reading it to discuss it. I would rather like read a book and then reach out to someone that I know read it and be like, hey, you want to talk about it now? Then try to read it and keep up with someone else who's reading it, because it just feels like a lot of pressure that I don't need in my life. So the next question is, what like age group or genre would you like to try to get more into your TBR that you are not currently reading? And I have two genres. I'm not super like I need to get a middle grade into my reading, because other than that I do read a lot of YA, I read a lot of adult, and I read a lot of new adult. So I'm gonna go with genres. The first one is kind of like more of a light fantasy feel. I have in the past few months read, or in the past year or two, I've read How to Hang a Witch, The Babysitter's Coven, and the sequel to The Babysitter's Coven that I can't remember. And those are all kind of light fantasies. I do think I have the sequel to How to Hang a Witch, and I also think that The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue would also fit in pretty well with the light fantasy feels. This is also a 5-star prediction for round 2 for me, so I definitely want to try to get it in for that reason as well. And then the other genre I would like to try to get into more is paranormal and ghosty kind of stories. And I do have an example for that as well, which is Light as a Feather by Zoe A. Nurse. There was a Hulu series based on this series on Hulu earlier last year, towards the beginning of the pandemic. I remember sitting on my couch and watching it during the pandemic before I went back to work or anything. And when I saw it on Book Outlet, I picked it up. I would like to read it and then try to rewatch the series. I got a little distracted. I will be honest, I watched the series because of one particular actress who I just think is really, really pretty. So I would like to try to read this one. And this is another one that I would like to try to get on my October TBR, because I just think that it'd be a good spooky season read, because I'm going to try to get as many spooky season reads onto my October TBR as possible. So the next question is, what book from a previous TBR would you like to try to get on a TBR for the end of this year, or do you want to read by the end of this year? And for me, that is I Am Not Dying With You Tonight by Kimberly Jones and Gilly Segal. This was on my February TBR. It was featured in my Wheel of TBR, and this was before I stopped reading. I read very little between the month of February and July, June, July, something like that. And this was featured on it. Not getting to it had nothing to do with the book itself. I didn't even touch it, but I just didn't read, and I really would like to read it. This is another book that is on my 5-star predictions round 2. And this is a book about two girls, a white girl and a black girl, who are at, I believe, like a football game. Yeah, a football game, and something happens. I don't know if it's like a shooting or a riot or something happens, and the two of them band together even though they aren't friends, they have nothing in common, they band together to survive the night. So the next question is, what book did you recently acquire that you would like to read by the end of the year? This book I did recently acquire. I got it in as like an add-on for my book of the month. It's not one of the most recent book of the month. I believe it's like May of 2019 or something. January of 2019. So it's been out for a while. Most of you have definitely heard of it. And that is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. This is like a super hyped book. Most people know what it's about. It is a thriller, and I would really like to try to read this by the end of the year because I bought it recently and I think it would be cool to read. And the next question is, what are 2 hyped books that you would like to read by the end of the year? And I'm going to do some repeat titles here, but again, The Silent Patient and The Secret Life of Addie LaRue. This one has been hyped in such a good way. Everyone seems to love it, whereas this one has a lot of mixed reviews. So I would like to try to read both of them by the end of the year. This one would definitely probably be a good October spooky season read. This one is big and intimidating, so I just need to get it on a TBR and suck it up and read it. Alright, and the last question is, what is a book that you previously DNF'd that you would like to give a second chance by the end of the year? Currently, I think I've only DNF'd 2 or 3 books this year. I always soft DNF first, unless like I really, really, really hate the book, and then I'll just completely DNF it. But I did soft DNF this book, forget when. But it is The Summer Bed by Anne Brasher, or Bradshair. This book is about 2 teenagers who share siblings but are not related. Basically, like the girl's dad and the boy's mom were married at one point. They had children. Then those parents got divorced and they met the other parent of the other 2 of these. So they share siblings, but they're not related. But their parents also share a summer house that they fought over in the divorce, and they now share it. So for a couple, growing up, they shared a bedroom but had never met. So it's kind of like one of those, I think it's supposed to be kind of like the flat share, but I will be honest, it was also previously published as a book called As the Whole Together, or As the Whole Thing Together, or The Whole Thing Together. I don't know. It was previously published under a different name, and I think if the summary had been done a little differently, I wouldn't have gone into it thinking that it was something that it wasn't, because it is much more about the whole family than it is just about these two teenagers. And when I picked it up, I thought it was just about the teenagers, and I was not in the place to read a family drama at the moment. So I would like to try to reread or get this on another TBR and give it a second chance, because I do think I'll enjoy it when I go in with the actual facts instead of going in thinking it's one thing and finding out it's another. So that is my end of the year TBR tag. There technically is another question, which is who do you tag? I'm just gonna tag anyone who watched this video and wants to do it. If you did make this video, let me know in the comments down below. I would love to see your video. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, worlders. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Emma, and it is lives in Malibu. It's wet. Why is this wet? The next, I'm blurry. It's another direction in my life again. All right, the next question, I believe it's the next question. Let me double check. What am I trying to say? But that is The Silent Patient by and that is The Silent Patient